Welcome to a very special event we have going on tonight, a tour of California Pinot Noirs. Who here likes Pinot? Who here, be honest, liked Pinot before the movie Sideways? Come on. Who here likes Pinot as a result of Sideways? Be proud, Eli. I can tell you that our numbers with sales kind of post that movie definitely reflects an increased popularity in that grape. And I'm sure all these guys would agree in the demand of that grape kind of post the movie Sideways. My name is Sritong. I'm the managing partner of Just Grapes. I welcome you to our evening on Pinot. We've got, the agenda tonight is going to be that I'm just going to give you a brief overview on the grape Pinot, talk a little bit about some food and wine pairing, and then I'm going to break it off to each of the winemakers / owners that will give you their insight on the regions their wines come from, some background on their winery and wines. Obviously the constant here is the grape Pinot Noir. The variable is where it's grown and how it's made. So, while we're called Just Grapes, at the end of the day, it's not just grapes. Where it's grown and how it's made will affect what the wine will taste like. And Pinot Noir, I think, of all grapes, really adapts to kind of its environment. And hopefully you guys will see that tonight. We've got 2 flights of wine for you. So obviously you've got one in front of you. Once we get through the first 4, your crew will come around and re-pour you the next flight. Sound good? All right. So I don't know where I'm able to stand and not be in your way, but does that work? Yeah, why don't I stand in front of you? Okay, sounds good. It's a crowded house. We don't normally have this many people up here. Okay, so this is not on. Okay, so we'll talk a bit about background on Pinot, some varietal characteristics. We'll range. We'll talk about Pinot Noir and food. You'll find that Pinot Noir is one of the best food pairing grapes out there. We'll talk about the kind of regions throughout California in terms of Pinot Noir producing regions, which these guys will talk about. We'll take questions as we go throughout. Casual format, please feel free to ask any questions. The only dumb question is the question you don't ask. Of course, I had to post this quote up here. One of you had this on your website, I think. One of you guys had this on the website. This is the Sideways quote that Miles talks about, kind of the nuance of Pinot Noir and kind of what makes it so special and what makes it so precious. And again, I think these guys would all agree that it's definitely a fickle grape, tough to grow, tough to make great Pinot, easy to make crappy Pinot. There's a lot of V2 kind of brands out there that have tried to jump on the bandwagon and I think are doing a pretty poor job at it. You get the opportunity tonight to taste some world-class Pinots. Pinot Noir, often considered the holy grail of winemaking, and I think, to make Pinot, it can be a heartbreak grape. These guys will share it with you, because it is difficult to make good Pinot. I think unlike a lot of wines out there, and when it's bad, it's really bad, and I think it's probably why a lot of people didn't come to Pinot until the movie Sideways or until recently. But when it's great, it honestly can be some of the greatest wine, full stop. And some of the best wines I've ever had have certainly been Pinot Noirs from around the world. The most famous, we're not tasting tonight, I think, is Burgundy. If anyone's ever had Burgundy or maybe didn't know that a red Burgundy is made with Pinot Noir, and some of your most expensive examples of Pinot Noir will come from Burgundy. In Burgundy, they name their wines based on the regions they come from, but know that by law, if it's red, for the most part, it's going to be Pinot Noir. Some of you might not know that Pinot Noir is actually used with champagne. Who knew that? Who knew that Pinot Noir is used in champagne? Handfully. For those who didn't know, you might think, how can you make something so light and white out of a grape that is essentially red? A lot of your color comes from the skin. Or all of your color comes from the skin, so if you don't put wine in contact with the skin, you get white. You get the juices white, so it stays white. Pinot Noir generally will lend kind of the body and the fruit profile to champagne and sparkling wines. So it is utilized in champagne. As I've said, it's difficult to grow, difficult to make, and these guys will talk more about it. I think some of the things that have it set up for failure are, thin skin, low color, definitely kind of frail in weather. It doesn't like massive extremes and swings. As a result, kind of the premium versions of the grape grow in more maritime, kind of cooler climates that are even throughout the year, which you'll see constant. So whether it's along the coast, or there's a large body of water, or there's an elevation play, normally kind of a cooler growing regions where this grape does really well. And I'll let these guys get into it, but I just wanted to make a mention kind of the next level of understanding the grape. So we have this grape Pinot Noir, but within the grape there are clones of the grape that these guys really get into in kind of determining the flavor profile of the Pinot. So like there is a McIntosh apple and a Granny Smith apple and a Gala apple, there are clones of Pinot Noir that will vary based on its skin size, its berry size, how it adapts to certain soil types. And these guys make the hard decisions on what clone do they use based on the land and climate that they're given. And I think these guys all work with kind of different clones, which they'll talk about. But when you do these, in the trade, when we do these clonal tastings, it's almost as if there were different grapes sometimes. I mean, they can be that drastic in affecting what the flavor of the wine is. So, the next layer of any aspiring wine geeks out there is starting to understand what the clonal variations are for Pinot Noir. And then it's a grape that mutates pretty easily. Some of the grapes that we all know and see on the shelves are Pinot Gris, Pinot Grigio, Pinot Blanc, Pinot Meunier is another sparkling wine champagne grape, but all mutations of the grape, Pinot Noir. This is just a fun slide to kind of contrast the difference between the New World versions of Pinot and the Old World versions. I think of New World Pinots, which we'll taste tonight, as much more voluptuous, much more giving, much more forward. A broad stroke. I recognize that there are certainly elegant Pinots out there in contrast to Pinot Noir producers, but when you put it next to Burgundy, broad stroke, Burgundians tend to be a little more kind of earth-driven, a little more delicate, a little more nuanced, and not as kind of rich and round. It's not to say one's better than the other, but it is to say there is a difference. So if you're looking on a restaurant wine list by the glass and there's two Pinots, one's from France and one's from California, know that your general difference, if you know nothing else, is that your warm climate sourced grape from California is going to be a little more fruit driven, a little richer on the palate. Your one that comes from a cooler climate like Burgundy is going to be a little lighter on the palate, a little more earth driven, a little more delicate, I suppose. General rule of thumb. Here's some all-star examples. Some of these I've had the privilege to taste. A lot of them I have not. But just to give you an idea of the pedigree of the grape, you look at some of these bottles like the Romanicanti at the 2005 at $9,000 a bottle. There's definitely some pedigree behind this grape from Burgundy, and certainly some California producers that are fetching $100+ a bottle. So when it's great, like I said, it's magnificent. The time maintenance, we've discussed kind of how difficult it is to make, how difficult it is to grow. Some of the requirements of the grape, because it is difficult to extract flavor and difficult to grow, are more kind of hands-on techniques to growing the grape and making the grape, and making the wine, sorry. So from hand picking to soaking it, or doing a cold soak, so you're getting additional color and flavor out of it. Doing hand punch downs, which is very labor intensive and back-breaking work. I had the opportunity to do it a couple times, and I don't know, I say opportunity and I think it was torture, because it's tough work, but it's necessary in making pretty premium high-end Pinot Noir. Talk about that. Some of the flavors, again, broad stroke that you find in Pinot Noir, things like rose petal, things like cinnamon, lavender, breadiness, not breadiness, but toastiness, strawberries, some cherries, common characteristics that you'll find in Pinot. Food pairing. I mean, literally, we could have this slide be times 20. Pinot Noir is a very versatile grape that goes with a lot of things. Some classic pairings are certainly things like dock and salmon, lamb, but you can go as light as sushi, you can go as heavy as a prime, aged ribeye on the bone. Pinot Noir really can pull out different characteristics of different types of food out there. And of course, it's got some leather to it. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Neil.